Welcome to the Thursday, May 14th, 2020 electronic meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. This meeting is in accordance with executive orders from the governor to effect social distancing and mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 virus. We intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment will be via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID number 960-3562-6700. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on TTN Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Anna Epperson.
Present.
Evan Hall. John Beeson.
Here.
Robert White.
Here.
Kathy Fortner.
Here.
Jessica Quijano.
Present.
David Rockland.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. We move on to item C, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Nope.
No? Hearing and seeing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. We'll move on to Section D, audience participation. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please call 1-877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID number 960-3562-6700. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds so that we may hear you clearly. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak?
Let's give them a minute, Commissioner Epperson, just to make sure that no one who's present wants to talk about general preservation topics, but there are no outside callers at this point.
Okay.
I think you can go ahead.
Okay. We'll move on to item E, unfinished business. There is no unfinished business. And then on to item F1, hearings. We will move on to hearing F1 at 122 South 7th Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen with you. Does that look okay?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. All right. Item F1 is 122 South 7th Street in the Old West Side Historic District. This is a 2.5-story gable fronter that features corner returns and a full-width brick front porch. It was first occupied in 1905 by William Allburn, a machinist. Homeowner's been steadily working on this house. He's had applications before the HDC several times in the last few years. 2014 for skylights, 2019 for a crawl space foundation with a basement and 2 egress windows. The applicant now is seeking HDC approval to replace an original basement window on the south elevation with another original basement window sash that is 5.5 inches wider. So the window is, would you guys nod if you can see my pointer moving? Yes, good.
Yep.
All right, window's right here. It's underneath this shallow bay window, bump out, and it's right behind these hostas. And there it is. Right now, it's a 2-light window with a vent coming through it. The vent is not hooked up to anything per the homeowner. We learned that at the site committee, review committee meeting. It's one side, yeah, you can see the vent there the other really well. The other side is just a pane of glass. This is the egress window that was replaced nearby around the corner of the house. I included a picture of it just so you could see how they would probably finish off the edges if this application were approved. The work requires, in order to, he'd like to remove that window that's missing a pane of glass and install this window, which is from the other side of the house. When they did that basement excavation work, it was already obsolete before then, and he saved it and would like to install it in the same place. This, however, is 5 or 6 inches wider, or would require a 5 or 6 inch wider opening than the existing window. The height is exactly the same. So the reason it had to come to the HDC was because he desires to make that opening wider equally on both sides. Here's the existing window from the inside. Pretty simple window, very similar to the one you'd like to install. Clearly the same era. There's another photo taken earlier in the year from the street. There's a hedge that runs around this corner lot, so really you can only see this window from right here if you're on the sidewalk. And the salvage sash is in very good condition, and the window sash does require repair. Generally, we don't, it's not recommended that window openings be changed. And I'll probably get to that in a second in the guidelines and standards, but staff's pretty okay with this since it is a historic window from the building and would do only minor changes to this window opening. From the Secretary of Interior Standards, number 2 says that the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 9 says that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for windows, not recommended is introducing a new design that is incompatible with the historic character of the building. From district or neighborhood settings, it's not recommended to introduce new construction that's visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting, which is basically saying the same thing. So staff does recommend approval of the application and feels that it is appropriate. And you'll notice tonight that I've included everything in the slideshow in case we want to reference it, in case one of you doesn't have it handy since there's no paper packet. But I'm just going to skip over those slides that don't have photos in them. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fetcher. Commissioner Speason and Rockland were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendation? Who would like to go first?
Who's going?
Go for it.
All right. This is definitively a pretty obscure area of the house. I mean, you could certainly see it based on certain times of the year. The house is pretty elevated up from the street. From 7th, you would definitely not notice a thing, but from the cross street, well, Washington, you could if you really wanted to focus on it. The fact that the window is going to be kind of reused, I doubt you would notice very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Rockland?
Yes. I agree with everything I've heard so far. The stone, we're pretty sure that the stone is a block, like some sort of some sort of concrete masonry unit. The block's in good shape. So I guess there's all the facts of like, it's obscured from the street for sure. I think the only note is that since it's a block, it will be filled in and parged is probably the treatment that they'll do. And I think that's why staff showed that photo of the parge on the other window. And, the parging will just be on the returns, obviously. So they're not going to parge anything that's street facing, but as the block returns back. And again, I think the parging will blend in really well. So that was the only thing I wanted to note.
Thank you. Will the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? And do you have anything you'd like to add to the staff report or review committee report?
Hi, I'm David Lewis, 122 South 7th, Ann Arbor, and no, I think it's covered it very well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
And a question for the applicant as well as with Ms. Thatcher. She might be able to answer this. So is the window going to be offset in one side, or is it centered in so that both sides of the wall have to be cut?
Yes.
Centered.
Okay. So both sides of the wall would be cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other
I-
questions?
I had one question.
Commissioner Quijano?
Thank you. There was not a detail, kind of a jam detail for this window, although pretty straightforward. Is the intent to have the window, plane of the window out front, kind of like the egress window that was shown, or is it going to be recessed similar to how it currently, the existing window is?
Should look like the existing one, just 3 inches wider on either side, the same height.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? We can move on to the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 122 South 7th. Public comment may be made by calling 1-877-853-5247 and then entering meeting ID number 960-3562-6700. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand after dialing into the meeting, please press *9 on your phone. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sound so that we may hear you clearly. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comment.
No, there aren't any phone
Me.
callers, so go ahead.
Okay, great. We will now move on. There's, I'm assuming, no additional questions from commissioners. And we'll close the public hearing portion of the application. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on the application? Commissioner Keanu?
Let me scroll to it, sorry. Okay. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 122 South 7th Street, the contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to replace a historic basement sash with a 5.5-inch wider historic sash from the same basement as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. In particular, standards 2 and 9 and the guidelines for windows, district or neighborhood setting, and building site, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, particularly as they pertain to windows.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Quijano, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there a discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I agree with Ms. Thatcher's report and the report of the review committee. I think this is pretty straightforward as far as an application, and it meets our guidelines. If there's no further discussion, are we ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Be sure to unmute before you say yes, commissioners.
Let's try again.
Yeah,
So we try again. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved, and you will receive written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning work on your project. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
We will now move on to item F2 at 1123 West Huron Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
All right, 1123 West Huron Street is a 1 3/4 story side gabled home, which features a prominent gabled wall dormer and a full width front porch. It is on the south side of West Huron Street, west of 9th Street and opposite Urbana Drive. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to remove a concrete stoop on the back of the house and build a 20-foot by 20-foot deck and install 80 linear feet of 8-foot tall wood privacy fence. Typically, fences that are 6 feet and below are staff approved if they meet other design guidelines. Because this one's over 6 feet, it is included along with the deck on this application. Walking around the house, this is the back corner of the house. Okay. So we're gonna walk around the left side. The driveway that you see there to the left is for a neighboring apartment building, which I'll show you in a sec. We're gonna walk down that drive. This is the back corner of the house. This is where the return from the fence would go. And there is a gate in that fence. I noticed on the plans. The little area where behind the trash cans and where the air conditioning condenser are would not be impacted by the deck at all. It would go a little bit to the left of them. This is the back of the house. So that's the concrete stoop that would come out. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4 risers going up to the door right now. The deck would stretch from just beyond the stoop all the way over to the corner of the house, but leaving this little garbage can area clear. Now we're in the backyard. I'm sorry, I did not put these in very logical order. This is at the very far back corner of the lot, looking into the large parking lot of the very large apartment building next door. You can see the back of the apartment building comes all the way back to the back of this garage. And that's just there mostly to show on the right-hand side, there's already an existing 8-foot tall privacy fence along the back of the lot. I don't know if a previous homeowner here put it up or if someone on the other side of it put it up, but that is that's a good representation of what the height of the fence would be. Now I'm looking toward the back of the house from that same location. Little 2-car garage here on the side. There are 2 cars parking here right now. The silver one, the one that's closer to the house, would no longer be able to park there because of the deck, which would come off right here and go out about to where that silver car is. Another view from the driveway of the backyard. I included this to show you that if a privacy fence is erected all along this property line, the people in the next lot over don't even use this back part of their yard because there's a big garage there. So no views are being foreshortened by a fence being put there. Here's where the fence would go. It would join up to the back corner here of the existing fence, run very close to the garage, between the garage and the telephone pole here, and up to the corner of the house right here, the back corner of the house. I think this is a little red bud. I believe that it was in front of where the fence would go, though I'm not 100% certain. This is a pretty unstable little hill here that's just like some mulch piles and some dirt that's been piled up over the years. So it might take a little bit of effort to get decent fence footings in there, but might be very easy to get nice deep fence footings in there too. And here's the apartment. As you can see, right now from the backyard of the house in question, they're looking at a brick wall and cars driving by. So really, houses and backyards that are farther to the west or to the right in this photograph, they're already looking at cars going by and a brick wall. So really, I think that I have no qualms at all about having an 8-foot tall fence along this driveway. Typically that's too tall to be neighborly, but there's not much reason to be neighborly here. This is the other side of the house, just to show that the deck from this side will be completely invisible. And actually, it will be nearly invisible, if not invisible, from this side as well, even without a fence going up. So very simple privacy fence, no opacity, 6-inch boards next to each other. Here's the layout of the lot. Here's where the deck would go, 20 feet by 20 feet. Here's where the trash cans and the air conditioning unit are. And the fence would go from this back corner of the house all the way back just past the garage to that fence in the rear corner. Deck 20 by 20. The deck itself is 20 by 20. It's going to be a little bit larger when you add these 2 steps to grade. Here's the current back door that would open out onto it. It's a big deck. There's no doubt about that. But one thing that helps is that the entire deck will be low enough that it does not require a guardrail of any sort, and is not proposed to have a guardrail. These 2 steps surround it on 3 sides. It's going to get pretty tight over here between the fence and the deck, but I don't think there's much going on that side of the yard anyway. There are additional drawings. Rear elevation looking at the door. This shows 1, 2, 3 risers and then another one up to the door. Let's see, it is all wood. About 8 feet of the deck are against the house here, though it is freestanding, and the rest is not next to the house because it has that open area. Secretary of Interior standards that best apply are 9, which I've already read to you, and 10, which I've already read to you. Secretary of Interior guidelines for district or neighborhood setting. Not recommended as introducing new construction into historic districts that is visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting. Appropriate under residential decks and patios is installing a deck in the rear of the property that is subordinate in proportion to the building, and installing a deck that is freestanding so it does not damage historic materials. Also appropriate is installing flooring made of wood or composite wood. For residential fencing, it's appropriate to install fences that meet Chapter 104 of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor that are no higher than 3 feet in the front yard and 6 feet in the rear yard. And that's what triggered the need for this item to come to the HDC, the fence part at least. And also appropriate is locating new fences and walls on lot and setback lines whenever possible. And that is the case here. So staff does feel that the deck and fence meet material and location guidelines, are not detrimental to the historic residences to the west or to the apartment building to the east, and they will not detract from the appearance of the historic home or other historic buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Commissioner Spies and Rockland were on the review committee. Will you please give your report and recommendation?
Sure thing. Well, yeah, I guess I don't have much to add. That was a very thorough report. There's a little, like a U-shaped void. Well, there's just a void between the house and the new deck. And I think it was in the photos, but I don't know if it was mentioned. There's an air conditioning outdoor unit there. And so that sort of explains what that gap is, because I was curious about that when I saw the plans. The other curious thing to me is the stairs on the side where the fence is, but maybe that's just to avoid having a guardrail. I guess I'll mention something else about the site, is that it, to me, as is, the site felt like it was sloping west to east, so toward the fence. From the yard toward the fence, the elevation got lower. And it was unclear if it was, would it be so low, depending on where they put the fence and the final grade there, that they would need another stair over on that side to actually make it down to grade. But I suppose that sort of thing will be figured out in permitting. Also in permitting is I'm not really sure you can have a step right outside. If that's a door that's required for egress, I'm pretty sure you need a landing outside of that door and then a step. But anyway, those sort of things will be figured out. In terms of the fence, being on the property, I felt that it was only going to help things in that backyard, especially even at 8 feet tall. It just felt like there was going to be nothing lost by any of the other properties because of all the reasons that that Jill gave in her staff report. And so, you know, being out there, you really got that feeling that, well, this is just really going to help things. It's not going to take away from any neighborhood or property historic issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Rockland.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Beeson?
I was going to only add that the greatest significant drop along the other residents and the 8-foot high fence. We got a good photo of that. Yeah. So it seems that the 8-foot high fence would be on the low side of the grade. That's where it seems like it might be installed. Or is it kind of in the middle, or is it at the top of the hill? Based on the site plan, I get the sense that it's kind of in between that, and it's supposed to be kind of between the garage and that telephone pole. So as it comes kind of out, it seems like it would be along that grade change. So it would appear pretty tall because it would be down at the bottom of the hill. So on the upside of the hill, on the homeowner's property side, it would probably not appear to be that tall, but on the apartment side, it would probably be pretty tall. Not that it's much of a concern in terms of this application, I guess more along the lines of adequate structural strength, making sure that it's getting down below grade enough, and you know, winds are getting stronger if anything else. So how this handles the wind load would something that be handled.
Are we ready for the?
Commissioner Epperson, we can't hear you. I'm having.
My apologies, I had the mute on.
I thought you were digging around for the script.
I'll read that again. I had it. I just had mute on. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
Hi, this is Jessica Carter of 1123 West Huron Street. And thank you, Jill Batcher, for that thorough presentation. The only thing I might want to add about the privacy fence, if you notice in the back corner, there's the dumpster for the apartment building. Mm-hmm. And the trash frequently blows over into my backyard, and it's become a big problem. So I feel that 8-foot fence is going to solve that problem. As well as I've had to speak with Cabrio about they installed new lights on the side of the building last year, which were much brighter than the previous lights, and they were shining through our windows, and they took care of that. It took several weeks. So that's not an issue currently. It's mainly the privacy I'm seeking out from the neighboring property.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I'm just curious, do you have any issue? I don't have the photo of where the dumpster is, but do you have any issues with the truck that backs up down the driveway? Is that going to be, not sure how wide that drive is. You don't have any issues with your trees along that property line or anything potentially thinking about the fence being along that edge.
No, I don't believe so. And what was there up until last year, there were some trees. When I purchased my home about 8 years ago, it had been a rental, and it was fairly overgrown with a lot of weed trees. And I had contracted Guardian to come out and thin the trees out. And since there's high voltage above there, you can see there's a branch actually still hanging there.
Right.
They come out and they needed DTE to come out and clear, do like a 6-foot clearance from the high voltage, and DTE cut the trees so far down they couldn't be salvaged. So we had to remove pretty much all of them.
Mhm.
And the dumpster, the worker that picks up the trash had actually thanked me for taking the trees out, because it makes it easier to pick up the garbage now. But it would run pretty far, you know, with enough clearance behind the dumpster. He kind of just picks it up and it comes forward and then goes back there.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Not seeing any. I just had one clarification. I believe Ms. Thatcher mentioned, but is the deck attached to the house at all at any point? At the foundation or anything? Or will it be completely freestanding? So.
I don't believe so, aside for where it comes out of where the door is.
Where
and
the
there'll be a
step would-
couple of steps coming down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Seeing no more questions, I'll move on to the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application. At 1123 West Huron Street, public comment may be made by calling 1-877-853-5247 and then entering meeting ID number 960-3562-6700. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. Ms. Thatcher, should I read the rest of this?
I think you can abbreviate. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. If there are any callers, city staff will select one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number, and then you will be able to raise your hand and whenever you'd like to speak. So if there are any callers, we will wait a minute.
I don't see any.
No callers raise their hand.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions? Okay. I will now close the public hearing portion of the application. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on the application?
I'll make
Commissioner Fortner?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner White?
I move.
Go for it.
I make a move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application 415 West Madison, a contributing property of Old West Side.
Oh.
Commissioner
So
White?
there's a typo in the motion.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me.
Sorry. Should be 1123 West Huron Street. Sorry, Bob.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
I'm on the right one. It's just, I follow you. It should be 1123 West Huron Street.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, a contributing property on the Old West Side Historic District to remove a concrete stoop on the back of the house and build a 20 by 20 deck and 80 linear feet of 8 foot tall wood privacy fence. The proposed work is compatible in the exterior design, arrangements, texture, material, and the relationship of the surrounding resources as it meets the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for residential decks. And the fencing and the walls, and the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 9 and 10, and the guidelines for the district neighborhood and settings.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Beeson. Is there a discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rockland?
Well, like I said previously, I'm supporting the fence and the deck. I just like to make a comment on the deck. Since there is, I don't know if the step is allowed by permit, by code that comes out of the door, but if it is allowed, I think that'll be the one place where the deck definitely will connect to the house. But by bringing the whole deck lower, then like the skirt board, it is sort of a nice design for a deck that attaches to a historic house, because the other design would be like a ledger board where you would have to rip off the skirt board and attach a ledger to the sill. And so, I mean, hopefully that is allowable. And so I think that having a lower deck for this property, and probably for most properties in the historic district, is supported in this case, let's say.
I mean, it looks like based on how they have, oh, sorry.
Commissioner Beeson.
Thanks. I mean, it looks like based on how they have the framing laid out, that the span would be, especially with the boards going this direction and then the little boards going this direction, that there's certainly enough to make up structurally between the gap between there and the house. So it looks like they kind of planned for that in the layout.
Right.
So it seemed as if it was being built as a separate structure.
Mhm.
It also saves them from having to do all the ledger board stuff and all the flashing affiliated with the ledger board.
Right.
Okay. But it seems to fit all the requirements and all the standards that we have.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeson. Any other commissioners? Anything else there? Okay. There's no further discussion. Are we ready for a vote? I'm going to say yes. All those in favor of the motion, I'm just going to remind you all to please unmute your microphones before the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved, and you will receive written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project. Thank you. We will now move on to item F3 at 406 South 7th Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the status?
This 1 3/4 story duplex features early Italianate influences like wide frieze boards and 4/4 windows. Also very detailed Queen Anne front porch with a tiny center gable set into the hip roof and a gable of typical proportions on the south end and a steep small gable toward the north. The lot is large. It's, sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's around 100 by 100. And the house has 2 driveways, one on the north side and one on the south side. This is the one on the north side that you see in this photo. The one on the south side is shared with the house to the south. It's on the west side of South 7th, 1 lot south of the corner of West Liberty, and the applicant is seeking HDC approval to expand the footprint of the rear wing of the house slightly, remove a modern second floor addition, and construct a new second floor on the rear wing with side-facing gables. This is an interesting house. It seems to have been constructed in phases, like so many Old West Side houses. At some point, you can see that probably a 3rd unit was located in the basement. I'm not sure about that, but that's probably why there's a door here and a path leading to it. But it is a duplex today. There's 1 unit on either side. You can see when I talk about the main block of the house, it's all of this up front here. This is a little side porch here, and there's a little original or pre-1945 bump here on the side that you'll see in a moment wraps around the back of the house. This shed roof second floor is a modern addition. I believe it's from the 70s and is incredibly unsympathetic to the rest of the house. A little bit closer shot of that. You can see around the back side of the house and the sides where some windows have been taken out. There used to be probably a double hung window here and a couple more on the back. So now you can see how this This formerly one-story wing goes across most of the back of the house, and it's connected to this gable that faces the street. And on the other side, this is the meeting of houses with little courtyards. On the other side, it forms a little courtyard behind the back of the house. There are some little knee wall windows here. There's an interesting shed dormer on this side that has a very old window in it, so it's presumed to be original. And you can see how they tied this shed addition in to the corner of the house back here. This is formerly a hip roof. So there may have been a front part of the house and a wing, and then this back part was wrapped around it. You can kind of see up here where that rear wing used to be. Of course, a lot of this is speculation. It does have a stone foundation. It's rubble back here in the back. You can't see the foundation on the west side or the south side because it's at grade, which isn't really a good thing. The stone is more apparent in the front and a little fancier in the front. I believe it's cut stone in the front. Here we're looking in at the courtyard, modern deck here. This is the back door to the north unit. Nobody really seems to know what this little bump is here. It's got a little tiny nice roof. And this is a good view of how that second floor is currently tying into the roof of the main house. Another shot of the back of the house. Oh, I included this just to show the new addition is proposed to come out 5 feet, this entire back of the house, and 5 feet here as well, and sort of a big wraparound L. And I included this to show you how the neighbors' yards would be impacted by that potentially. Neighboring house is a little bit shallower than this one, though there is a lot of distance between the houses on either side because of the size of this huge lot. There's a very thorough description in the packet of the addition, the work that they want to do. The proposed siding on the addition is 5-inch reveal fiber cement board with a smooth side out, fiber cement trim and corner boards, Anderson aluminum clad windows, and here's a drawing of the footprint. So really, there's very little footprint change to this building. It's very minimal, just this 5 feet wrapping around the back of the house. It's a weird application to kind of get your head around, so I'm going to go through these very thorough drawings as well. Here you can see the existing first floor with the proposed addition. This is how the first floor would be expanded. Here's the second floor. This is the existing second floor right now with that shed roof, and it would be bumped out significantly to the north and then a little bit to the west. This is the proposed new first floor plan. There would be an entry door back here. It's sort of inset in the corner. New little powder room is squeezed in, and there's a new stair going down to the basement. And this is the second floor. You can see that this is existing roof. This is that existing wall that you see at the end of the rear addition wing. And here it is bumped out a little bit more. This is the existing roof plan. Lots of hips with the shed plopped down on the top of them. And here's the proposed roof plan. You can see that there's a north-south running ridge and there is a gable on either end, but the gable stops here, which is short of the end of the first floor wing on the first floor, which is important in a sec. I'll show you. So the proposed addition is on the top. It is higher than the roof ridge on the main historic part of the house. It's 2'7" higher than the existing one. Other than that, the front elevation dead on is really not impacted. The existing is on the bottom here. You can see that shed dormer, or I'm sorry, that shed second floor. Here's the new one. So it's proposed, remember, to come out. So this historic window is really the only historic feature, and this fixed one that would be lost because the other windows on the back of the house are all modern replacements. The architect took great care to keep this away from this window and to impact as little as possible the intersection with the roof. This is the back of the house. You can see on the bottom is the existing with a little shed roof plopped down on the one-story wing, formerly one-story wing, and now this wall moves over, the whole thing goes up to hide as much as possible behind the house. And you'll notice that this roof line is maintained, which I think is a very positive thing. Here's the south side of the house. Existing is on the bottom with that shed roof. And here's how the new addition has a little, almost a saddle here, going out from where this shed currently attaches to the main house, in order to sort of give it more definition between the historic part of the house and also to help set this slightly taller gable back farther, and make it, you know, the farther away it is, the less you'll notice it. Really appreciate that this form and this little porch here were kept. All right, now we are on the, these have some, they are the existing with some shadow lines of the proposed. Oops, sorry, didn't know I could do that. To show you the difference. And on the back. All right, massing views of what's proposed. This is the little side porch. This is the existing one-story. It would be extended out, but kept distinct from this piece. And here's the new gable going up. Massing at the street. Lots of details in the packet. The new door, this is in that little recessed corner on the new addition, so it's hardly visible anyway, but it is an appropriate style. And then lots and lots of window cut sheets. I'm going to go back up here a sec. The windows on the house now are a variety of historic windows, quite a few 2/2s, but some, these are just 2 lights in the knee walls. On the other side, I think that there are some 4/4s. And the trim is a little bit different on all 4 elevations of this house. So it's consistent by elevation, but not all the way around the house. The resulting footprint would be, footprint of the additions would be 20% of the original footprint, and the floor area of all additions adds 33% of the original. So well below the 50% max. And as I mentioned, the proposed ridge roof ridge is 2 feet 7 inches taller than on the main house block. Secretary of the Interior standards, I've already read to you 2, 9, and 10. The guidelines for additions recommend constructing a new addition so that there's the least possible loss of historic materials, so that character defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed, and designing new additions in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. I think that this does a good job of that. Also locating attached exterior additions at the rear or on an inconspicuous side of a historic building and limiting its size and scale in relationship to the historic building. A lot of this massing of the addition is behind the house, but the lot is so big that you're going to be able to see it pretty clearly from both sides, going up or down 7th Street. You can only hide it so much. The house is up on a hill, which also kind of changes the viewer's experience. From the guidelines for building site, not recommended is introducing new construction onto the site which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, and texture, or which destroys historic relationships. Guidelines for windows, not recommended is introducing a new design that's incompatible with the historic character of the building. I think that this one did a good job of staying in keeping with that. Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for additions. Limit the size and scale of the addition in relationship to the historic building so it does not diminish or visually overpower the building or the district. And you should place new walls in a different plane from the historic structure in a subordinate position to the historic fabric. You should also retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space. And it's not appropriate to introduce a new feature that's visually incompatible or that destroys the patterns of the site or the district. Staff does recommend approval of the application and thinks that it was a very considerate design that is sympathetic and compatible with the existing house. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Commissioners Beeson and Rockland were on the review committee. Would you please give your report and recommendation?
Sure. Building's definitely way up on a hill. This is a standalone house that just pops out from the street. You could easily see it from anywhere you go. It has a lot of cool features all around it, and you know, by and large, when you get around to the side on either side of it, you start getting pretty confused by looking at the house, honestly. So any intervention that's done back here on the back side of the house would certainly improve the main portion of the house and its historic standing. So by and large, in terms of what we see around the house, there's not a whole lot of property to the north, and to the south is fairly wide open. You know, the houses on either side are not really close. So as I mentioned, this is a standalone house.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeson. Commissioner Rockland?
Yeah, there's a, this house has a lot of integrity to it, a lot of historic integrity, particularly on the front and then the two side elevations toward the front of the house, with the porch and the just the really unique peaked gables in the front. It has a lot of character, but that sort of all let's say the character does not continue through all the way through, because in the back of the house it just has that very unusual shed roof addition, and then just a bunch of yeah, like the roof line. There's just a lot going on with the ins and the outs and roofs here and there. So I think that that's kind of what you see when you go to this house. It also has in the background there, you can see it, a very nice historic garage with an awning, shed roof garage with an awning with brackets. But yeah, so in terms of the site, well, I'm not going to repeat. I just agree with Commissioner Beeson's views on the site. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Rockland. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone and provide your name and address for the record? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report?
My name is Connie Rozola Brown. Can you hear me? I can't see me if I'm on there.
Yes, we can hear you.
My business address is 210 Collingwood, Ann Arbor, Michigan. I don't have much to add right now, but I'm glad to answer any kinds of questions that any of the commissioners might have about the house and about the plans.
Okay. Commissioner Rockland?
I had a question about Ms. Thatcher referred to it as the courtyard area. There's a, it appears that part of that, well, there's something there that has like a little shed roof.
What is it? It's a closet on the
You don't know what it is
inside.
yet.
I don't think it has a foundation either. I think it just kind of cantilevers out there.
Right. Is some of that being, I guess, is there a new wall being built there? It looks like the new
there
stair
is.
that goes up.
Yeah, if Jill wants, yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, there's the wall.
Yep. I'm extending it a little bit so I can get a stair around there.
Jill, do you see that wall we're talking about?
And I actually, yeah, the dark line that's to the left of the
In the
word.
middle.
Oops, right here.
Right there. Yep.
Yeah, this one?
Yep. So that's going to help me get my stair in there because it's a very narrow, steep stair, or I should say high, shallow treads, high rise.
So my question is, so there's the dormer, there's that tiny, very narrow shed dormer just above that, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of curious as how that wall comes up and meets up with that dormer in some way. It's sort of difficult to know.
Yeah, if you go to the plan, Jill, I think that's a little easier. Go to the second floor plan. So the window that you see, do you see the dashed line that says existing bedroom 1? That's where the dormer is on the back. And then the roof that's stepped down, the gable is not in the shaded area. The gable is from, go to the left, Jill, to the west. The west. Keep going. Yeah, so the gable area is the white on the second floor in the new part, where you see the gable on the north and the south side. The roof that I lowered to separate the two, because the existing wall is the one that's on the west side of the stairwell. So the flattened roof separates the gable from the existing house, and that's what you see on the south side. When it comes to the north side, it wraps around and the roof plane broadens there. If you go to the roof plan, it might show on that, Jill. There you go. So that with the shade on, not the shingle hatch, is where the shallower roof is, and there's the ridge. So I took the ridge down from a point that made sense structurally and then just flattened it out whatever that distance would be to give it some slope.
So the stair going up to the second floor where you filled in that little area, that occurs within that lower roof?
No, it's in the existing house. The stairs in the existing house.
So looking at the roof plan then, where is the stair at the roof plan we're looking at right now?
I wish I could point to it. It's to the east.
They're roughly in that box.
Yeah, so it's go a little west. Go west, now go up and down in that white area. Go south, that's where the stair is.
Okay.
So that's all part of the existing house. And the shaded area you see next to it is the hallway. They get you into the bedroom and the bathrooms.
Commissioner Beeson.
So while we're looking, go back to that one. All right, so right there, I want you to note the north part of the gable. Put your mouth on the mouse, you're right there. Okay, and then go to the second floor plan. So you'll note that the elevation and that window location, Connie, don't match, which is just minor. But in the elevation, the window is actually centered at the gable.
Okay, go to the elevation to show me.
Go to the elevation now. There. So you can see the window at the top right is centered in the gable.
Gable, and it's not centered on the plan.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Minor fix.
Yeah, I would. It's to be centered. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Just a quick question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cannon.
Sorry, I spoke before I raised my hand.
You're good.
So the two windows on the north elevation that are, that are going away, is there anything planned for those?
No, they're part of the addition that you see that's above it.
Sure. If I may, just referencing the, it was fortunate for the first application this evening that he had a historic window on hand. So I would recommend,
use it?
just kind of keeping them in reserve, perhaps.
Oh, absolutely. No, okay, yeah, if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, could we find a place for it? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's nice to have something on hand that could be referenced later. Hopefully nothing happens to the existing remaining windows.
Can I ask you guys a question? On the south elevation, can you go to the south? So on the south elevation, in that shape that I'm keeping, that's a 1-story next to that porch, there was a shape. You can see, if you look at the siding, you can see that a window was cut out there. Could I reuse it on that side? I bet you it matches just about the same size. If you go back, Jill, to the photos, it shows where the window was cut out.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get there, but it keeps jumping around. And now it won't move. There. Are you gonna go to the photos? Yeah.
I'm gonna be difficult.
Yeah, I think I pointed that out the first time around.
Yeah,
right?
Right. So, there's, if you put your cursor around that,
Right
that is about the same size as that window that you pointed out, Jessica. That's a great idea, if we could reuse that there.
Yeah, I mean, there's evidence that there probably was an opening there, and
I think I might have a close-up in there, but the siding is patched with very straight lines. It looks like something was cut out of it.
Yeah, even in that one photo, I could see an edge.
See the lines and see the edges real clearly.
Yeah. So possibly, yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the public hearing portion of this item. If this is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about this application at 406 South 7th. Public comment may be made by calling 1-877-853-5247 and then entering meeting ID number 960-3562-6700. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand after dialing into the meeting, please press *9 on your phone. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. Give us a little bit of time to see if we have any public comments. We can move on and see if there are no additional questions from commissioners. We'll close the public hearing portion of the application. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioner Beeson?
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 406 to 408 South 7th, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to expand the footprint of the rear wing of the house slightly, remove a modern second floor addition, and construct a new second floor on the rear wing with side-facing gables. The proposed work is compatible in exterior design arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the surrounding resources, and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for additions and new construction, and the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for district, neighborhood, building site, new additions, and windows.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Beeson, seconded by Commissioner White. Is there a discussion on the motion? Sure, there's. I'll just start by, I guess I'd like to hear just a little bit more. We talked somewhat about the mapping and scale of the new addition, and I think Ms. Thatcher and Commissioner Rockland and Commissioner Beeson did a pretty good job of explaining the application overall. I think the drawings are actually really clear, and the application packet was put together pretty nicely. That gives us a nice idea of what the house looks like, all the existing photos and ins and outs, and really seeing the what's existing and then what's being proposed, overlaid on that. My only minor concern, I think, is the overall height of the new addition, the new roof peaking up 2 feet. But I think somebody put it nicely that said that, there are so many ins and outs that the new addition is actually kind of condensing that and giving a little bit more character to the existing contributing portion of the house. So I'm just curious if there were any other thoughts that commissioners had regarding that, the massing and scale and setting, especially with it being such a large lot. Commissioner Rockland.
Well, yeah, I think that I'm glad you brought it up, because the height is the height of the addition definitely is something that is not sort of standard within the guidelines. Typically, you want an addition to be obviously less high of a ridge than the historic portion of the house. So we have to talk about, I guess, why in this specific case we would allow it if we do allow it. I think that one thing that is present here in this design that's unique is you can't really call it a hyphen, because it is again it's tall in elevation and wide, but there is a section of the addition that connects the historic with the taller portion. So I would say without that, it would be very difficult to say that this meets the standards. I mean, I know why the applicant is asking for it, because it's obviously much more livable to have that higher ceiling. I guess that's one, is that the quote unquote hyphen is there. Two, it's a narrow massing relative to the scale of the house. So it's higher, but it's narrow. So maybe that's two. And then three, it's replacing something that was like clearly would not have been approved just because of, I think, in my opinion, just not compatible in design. So maybe those are three things that's helping it versus it being maybe not appropriate because of the height. I will say that what I'm calling the hyphen, that really isn't a hyphen. Again, that I would feel that just without the addition, the existing addition being there, the way that extends above the roof plane on either side, that also I would say is really not appropriate in a vacuum. But since the addition, the existing addition already does that in that location, it feels more allowable, because it's sort of taking that bad condition and fixing so many other things that were sort of not compatible about the non-historic portions of this house. So I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking about, is that hyphen appropriate, and is the height of that the back part of the addition appropriate? Those are two questions that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are good points, and I think something else that that's in the guidelines is the addition subordinate to the rest, to the contributing portion of the structure, and I think overall, I would say it is. I think it's really that one view from the north side of the lot where you would see that that addition pretty clearly, yeah. Because, you know, of course in elevation, it's hard to tell a little bit of that plane change, but I think it's like you're saying, it sits back a little bit, and it's also not only sits back from the northmost space of the house, but it also sits back because of the hyphen, quote unquote, or so to speak. But it's a little bit borderline, I think, subordinate for me. It's my only thinking. Commissioner Beeson?
Yeah, we would say worries of making sure that it's subordinate to the main historic structure are certainly valid. And I look at the elevations both on the north and the south. If you want to show both of those really briefly, go to the north or the south. And I can see that the gable on both of those, you can see that the gable width across the front of it is substantially narrower than the main portion of the house. And those would be read at an angle. When you read those at a side angle, would even shorten it even more. So to me, looking at the north and south elevations, can you go to this? Yeah, there you go. That one is pretty short. You know, it foreshortens, especially from the road, and then go to the north elevation. One more there. You could tell. What is that? Yep, that's it. You could tell that although the line isn't enforced at that edge, but you could tell that that portion of the gable bunching out would certainly be foreshortened and shorter than the one up front. So even though the height is higher, I feel that its width would still be read differently from the road, making that the main historic structure would still read the loudest, even though it may not be the tallest.
Right.
Especially with the tall windows in the main portion of the house. You know, those really cause it to read loudly.
Distinguish it.
Yeah. I think it's a really well done application. I think it does a good job of trying to maintain that existing structure and then add something that kind of ties in all the craziness going on in the back. I was actually, the first time I saw that, looking at the back going, what is going on back here? So I was kind of happy to see it being unified.
Can I say something?
Please.
That's exactly what I tried to do, John, is by keeping that gable shape slender and keeping the same slope and then using a smaller window in there to highlight what was going on with the original house. To me, the proportion helped enhance what was already there.
Are there any other discussion points or anything any other commissioners would like to say? All right, seeing no further discussion, we can move on to the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. All right, the motion carries. Your application has been approved. You will receive written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We will now move on to G, new business. All right, G1, staff approvals list. Item G1 is in addition to the staff approval list for small cell infrastructure. Ms. Fetcher, would you please give the staff report?
We don't hear you, Jill. Back it up.
Thank you. Thank you. So a small cell wireless facility, it's the latest rage in wireless technology. And several different wireless providers, this one happens to be Verizon, are installing them mostly in neighborhoods close into the downtown and in the downtown. They're expected to have like 250 or 300 of them installed on telephone poles and possibly other existing infrastructure over just the next like year. So far, I have received 30 or so applications for these in 3 of our historic districts. So the Old West Side, the Old Fourth Ward, and Broadway are drawn differently, the shape of the historic district, than the rest of them, than the other 11. These 3 districts are basically a big shape, and everything within that shape is in the historic district. The rest of the districts are drawn parcel by parcel, and the streets and the right-of-ways are excluded. So because these small cell installations are new privately owned equipment in the city right-of-way and in the historic district, they are required to turn in a Historic District Commission application. And I have been approving them at the staff level. You have not yet delegated me the ability to do that, but since most of these applications started coming in around the 1st of March, they do have a timeline associated with them, and they will be automatically approved if the city doesn't act quickly enough. So I've just given them approvals in order to avoid the problem of automatic approvals. And that's because they're mostly okay. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples here. This is one from Verizon, excuse me for a lot of this is just construction drawing stuff that you don't care about. They always include a map. This one happens to be at the corner of Urbana and West Huron. They always include photos of the existing pole, their wood telephone poles of varying heights, and the location of where they are. And then they have drawings of what the new equipment look like. A lot of these have new poles. For example, this one has the top of the existing wood utility pole at 40 feet. It's going up to 47 feet. The poles aren't getting wider, they're just getting taller. And then you can see the stuff that they're installing on the pole, in addition to the lines that are already connected to it that would be reconnected. At first, these were a little bit alarming to me, but when you drive around town, this is already a tall pole and it's going to be even taller. But when I'm driving around, at least, I rarely notice the difference between a 30-foot tall and a 50-foot tall utility pole because they're utility poles. And this stuff, they're keeping it sort of minimally sized. These are not conspicuous. They're not wings that go out. There are some that have wings that go out, but the city of Ann Arbor engineering has said, no, we want low key. We don't want big things that maybe are more convenient for you, but not so for us. And this one is extremely typical. This is what probably 90% of the applications look like. I'm going to get out of here now and try a different one. Nope, that's the same one. Hang on. This one is right downtown, outside of Haymaker, the bar, which has had several other names. This one's a little different. This is not one that the HDC would review, but engineering is giving to me all of the poles and equipment proposals that are in historic districts. So this is the existing pole right outside of Haymaker there, right at the corner of South 4th and East Washington. They had originally proposed for this pole to get a lot taller. And my comments were, it absolutely cannot be taller than the cupola that's on the corner of this, or the tower that's on the corner of this building. And they actually came back with revised plans, and they're not changing out the pole at all. They're just changing out the equipment on the pole, which is great. You know, it's got these new things stuck on it near the top. It's got some new wires running down it. Lovely. So they really are, the providers really are being very sensitive because they want to put these things in now. They want to do it quickly. They don't want to be messing around with historic district commissions and getting in fights with engineering about what a pole is going to look like. So I just wanted to share a couple of those with you. And I am requesting that you add this as number 37 to the staff approvals list, which would say small cell wireless facilities on existing or new utility poles that do not destroy, distract from, or obscure historic character or architectural features. Happy to try to answer questions.
I support the project. Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, please.
I make a motion that wireless, this small cell wireless facility be approved by the Historic District Commission.
Second. Anna, we can't hear you, Anna. Bob's phone is ringing.
Moved by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Peterson. Is there a discussion on the motion? Commissioner Rockland.
Jill, besides the height of the pole, have there been any other instances where you've made comments about changing things?
I haven't had any yet that I've made more substantial comments on than that, but I have met with a consultant who's working with city engineering on some design guidelines. They would be for the downtown in general. They want to make sure that whatever goes into the design guidelines is something that is compatible with the Historic District Commission design guidelines, even though never the twain shall meet. And that's been kind of dragging along. I think it'll probably wrap up quickly once we all get back together again in City Hall someday, or maybe sooner. But there is a consultant working on a separate set of design guidelines for small cell installations in the DDA.
Great. There's no other discussion. We'll move for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Next is item G2. Thank you. The 2020-2021 HCC meeting schedule. Ms. Betcher, do you have a copy of that you can pull up, or I don't?
You know, I don't have a copy that I can pull up.
Okay.
Okay. I can get one if you need it, but it's. I don't recall there being anything unusual about this year.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. We
Go ahead, Commissioner White.
We approve the July 2019 to June 2020 meeting schedule for the Historic District Commission.
Is it the 2020 to 2021?
Oh, the one I have in front of me says July 2019, but apparently it should be July. Okay, they mistyped the top of the schedule.
Yeah.
It should be
We're doing our best to trip you up tonight.
Well, you did an excellent job. It's not a problem. July 2020 to June 2021 meeting scheduled for the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. Motion.
Moved by Commissioner White. Is there a second on the motion?
Okay.
Seconded by Commissioner Peterson. All those in, is there a discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Please change.
All those opposed? Go ahead.
Please change the schedule.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The motion carries. Next is item H1, approval of the February 13, 2020 HCC meeting minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. Sorry, guys. Okay, we'll move on to item I. Would any commissioner like to share something with the commission? Any reports or concerns? Nope. Commissioner Quijano?
Just to say that I think earlier in the week or late last week, I saw a flurry of emails from the Cobblestone Farm Association. We had a little bit of a jolt, no pun intended. There was a little bit of a circuit breaker fire, I guess, and some confusion prior to seeing any photos. You know, what was the damage? What do we need to do? But everything is fine and working as of the latest I heard today. It was just a little bit of kind of some darkening of the stone on the outside, but nothing severe. So I think we're all good there. But just to let you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll move on to item J, review committee. The review committee will be on Monday, June 8th, 2020 at a time being mutually agreed upon for the June 12th, 2020 regular meeting. Are there any volunteers?
So we have extreme flexibility these days with review committee.
Right. I am not available that day.
I think I can do it.
Thank you,
Put me
Jess.
down.
I can do it as well, I believe.
All right. Thank you, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'll get in touch with the two of you and we'll figure out a good time.
Okay.
Perfect.
Reports from staff. Ms. Thatcher, do you have any?
Not really. If you look at the staff activities report, it's all small cell installations and not much else. Things have gotten pretty quiet. Next month's staff activities report is not going to have a whole lot on it, but permits are picking up, so hopefully that won't last too long.
Thank you. Item L, concerns of commissioners. Any concerns of commissioners? Great. And on to the last item, communications. There are no communications for the HDC this month. So with that, we can adjourn the May 14th, is that correct? 2020 HDC Historic District Commission meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Good job.
Thanks. Bye.